On October 15, 2015, 11 college friends drove up Blackridge Mountain for what should have been a perfect weekend camping trip to celebrate their last fall break together. They posted one final photo at 9:47 p.m., all of them laughing around a campfire, faces glowing in the orange light, arms wrapped around each other like they'd live forever. By Monday morning, when none of them showed up for classes, their families started calling. Their cars were found at the trailhead. Their campsite was discovered 3 miles up the mountain, tents still standing, sleeping bags laid out, food half-eaten on plastic plates. But the 11 friends were gone, vanished into the mountain air like smoke. For 2 years, their faces stared out from missing posters stapled to every tree along the mountain road. 11 young people, frozen in time, waiting to come home. Then, in October 2017, a hiker's dog started digging in a ravine 5 miles from the original campsite and uncovered something that made seasoned investigators vomit. What police found in that ravine wasn't just evidence of what happened to the missing friends. It was proof that someone had been hunting young people in those mountains for years, and the 11 friends had stumbled into something far more terrifying than getting lost in the woods. Danny Caldwell hadn't slept properly in 731 days. 2 years and 1 day since Sarah and her friends vanished on Blackridge Mountain. 2 years of jumping every time his phone rang, hoping it would be news. 2 years of driving up that mountain road every weekend, retracing their route, searching for something, anything, the investigators might have missed. He sat at his kitchen table at 5:47 a.m., staring at the same photo he'd looked at every morning since October 17, 2015, the last one posted to Sarah's Instagram. 11 college kids around a campfire, their faces glowing orange in the darkness, arms slung around each other's shoulders. Sarah was in the middle, her blonde hair in a messy bun, head thrown back mid-laugh. The timestamp haunted him. 9:47 p.m. 3 hours later, according to the phone records, all 11 phones had stopped transmitting signals. Just stopped, like they'd all been switched off at exactly the same moment. Danny's phone buzzed on the table, making him flinch. Unknown number, Kentucky area code. His heart hammered as he answered. "Mr. Caldwell, this is Detective Ruth Calloway with the State Police. We need you to come to the Blackridge Mountain Ranger Station immediately." His coffee mug slipped from his hand, shattering on the linoleum floor. "Did you find them?" "Mr. Caldwell, ... Her voice was careful, professional, but Danny heard something underneath it, something that made his stomach clench. "We've found evidence. I can't discuss it over the phone, but you need to come now. And Danny, bring a recent photo of Sarah, one where we can clearly see any identifying marks, scars, tattoos, anything unique." The drive to Blackridge took 90 minutes on a good day. Danny made it in 65, his 2004 Honda Civic screaming around the mountain curves he'd memorized over 2 years of searching. The October morning was crisp and clear, mist clinging to the valleys below, the trees exploding in reds and golds just like they had been that weekend. The ranger station parking lot was chaos, state police cruisers, FBI vehicles, a coroner's van, and 3 ambulances. Danny's legs went weak. Ambulances meant survivors. But the coroner's van. Detective Calloway met him at the perimeter tape, a woman in her 50s with gray-streaked hair pulled back tight and eyes that had seen too much. She guided him away from the crowd of reporters already gathering into a small office that smelled of burnt coffee and old wood. "Sit down, Mr. Caldwell." "Just tell me." She pulled out a tablet, swiped to a photo. Yesterday afternoon, a hiker's dog uncovered human remains in a ravine about 5 miles from where your sister's group was camping. We've been excavating since 3 a.m. Danny stared at the aerial photo of the ravine. Orange evidence markers dotted the ground like fallen leaves. So many markers. How many? "We've found remains from at least 9 individuals so far." Calloway's voice was steady, but her knuckles were white where she gripped the tablet. "Based on clothing and personal effects, We believe they're from your sister's group. 9. The word came out like a punch. There were 11 of them. I know. She swiped to another photo, a mud-caked wallet. We've identified Brandon Cole from his driver's license. And she hesitated, then showed him a water-damaged student ID. Nicole Hendricks. Danny's hand shook as he touched the screen, zooming in on Nicole's photo. She'd been Sarah's roommate, her best friend since freshman year. They'd planned to backpack through Europe after graduation. What about Sarah? We haven't found her, or Kevin Hartley. Their remains aren't in the ravine. Hope and dread twisted in his chest. So they could be? Mr. Caldwell, I need to show you something else. Calloway pulled out an evidence bag containing a small notebook, the pages warped and stained. This was in Brandon Cole's jacket pocket. It's water-damaged, but our techs were able to recover some of the writing. She opened it to a marked page. Danny recognized Brandon's handwriting immediately. He'd been the organized one, the one who always took notes, made lists, planned every detail of their trips. The entry was dated October 16th, 2015, the day after they'd arrived. Day 2. Something's wrong. Found old campsite 1 mile north. Weird stuff. Backpacks from different years. Found ID from 2009. Maria Santos, USC. She went missing. Remembered the news story. There are more camps, more old gear. How many? The next entry was shorter, more frantic. Kevin went to check the other sites. Been 3 hours. Should have taken 30 minutes. Girls want to leave. Trevor and Matt say we're overreacting. Keep hearing things. Someone's watching us. Danny turned the page. Brandon's usually neat handwriting had devolved into desperate scrawls. They're not park rangers. That was the last entry. We ran the name Maria Santos, Calloway said quietly. USC student went missing on Blackridge Mountain in October 2009. She and 4 friends. Never found. Danny's mind raced. There were others? We've been going through missing persons reports for the past 20 years. At least 37 people have vanished on or around Blackridge Mountain, always in groups, always in October. October, Danny repeated, the word tasting like ash. We think someone's been using the mountain as a hunting ground, targeting camping groups during peak season when the trails are busy enough that a few missing people might not be noticed immediately. Danny stood up so fast, his chair fell backward. And you're just figuring this out now? 2 years later? The original investigation treated it as a missing persons case. Group got lost, possible animal attack, exposure. It happens. But this? She gestured to the notebook. This changes everything. You said you found 9 bodies. Where are Sarah and Kevin? Calloway was quiet for a long moment. Then she pulled up another photo on her tablet. It was a piece of fabric, torn and muddy, caught on a tree branch. We found this 2 miles from the ravine, heading down the north face of the mountain. It matches the description of the jacket Sarah was wearing. Danny grabbed the tablet, zooming in. It was Sarah's jacket, the purple North Face she'd bought specifically for the trip. But something was wrong with the photo's perspective. This was heading down the mountain, away from where you found the others? Yes, and Danny ... Calloway pulled up one more image, a footprint preserved in dried mud with a measurement marker beside it. This was found near the fabric. It's fresh, maybe 2 weeks old. Size 7 women's hiking boot. Sarah wore size 7. Danny's knees buckled. He caught himself on the desk, his mind struggling to process what Calloway was implying. You think she's alive? I think someone survived the initial attack, based on the evidence patterns, the wear on the recovered items, and the distribution of the remains. Calloway chose her words carefully. We believe at least one member of your sister's group may have survived the initial incident. Then where has she been for 2 years? Before Calloway could answer, her radio crackled to life. Detective, you need to see this. Sector 7, immediately. The urgency in the voice made them both move. They rushed out of the office, Calloway leading the way to a police ATV. They drove up a narrow trail Danny had searched at least a dozen times, past the yellow tape marking the original campsite, deeper into the woods where the trees pressed close and the sunlight barely penetrated. A cluster of investigators stood around something Danny couldn't see. They parted as Calloway approached, and Danny saw what had made veteran police officers look sick. It was a tree. Ancient, massive, its trunk probably 6 feet in diameter. But that wasn't what made Danny's blood freeze. The tree was covered in Polaroid photographs. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, protected from the weather by sheets of clear plastic tacked to the bark. They started about 8 feet up and spiraled around the trunk, going up as far as Danny could see. Each photo showed a group of young people, camping, hiking, sitting around fires, laughing, living. And in the corner of each photo, written in neat handwriting, were dates. October 2003, October 2005, October 2007. Danny's eyes tracked up the spiral until he found what he was looking for and desperately hoping not to see. October 2015. 11 faces around a campfire. But this wasn't the Instagram photo. This was taken from a distance, from somewhere in the darkness beyond the fire's light. The angle suggested the photographer had been above them, possibly in a tree. Someone had been watching them that night, documenting them, hunting them. Danny stared at the photograph of his sister's group until his vision blurred. The image was perfectly centered, professionally composed, despite being taken in darkness. Whoever shot this had experience, patience, and the right equipment for night photography. "There's more," Detective Calloway said quietly, leading him around to the other side of the massive tree. The photos on this side were different. Aftermath shots, groups in distress, people running, faces twisted in terror. And at the very bottom, protected by a metal box bolted to the trunk, was a leather journal. A crime scene tech was photographing each page before carefully turning to the next. Danny caught glimpses of neat handwriting, detailed entries, maps with X marks. "It's a record," the tech said, his voice muffled by his mask. "Going back to 1999, every group, every hunt, every outcome." Danny's phone vibrated in his pocket. Unknown number. He almost ignored it, but something made him answer. "Hello?" Silence. Then breathing. Then a voice that made his knees buckle. "Danny?" It was Sarah, weak, raspy, but unmistakably his sister. "Sarah! Oh my God! Where are you? Are you okay? We're on the mountain. We found—" "Don't come looking for me." Her voice was flat, mechanical, like she was reading from a script. "Please, Danny, just go home. Forget about this." "Sarah, what are you talking about? Where are you?" "I'm safe. Kevin's safe, but only if you stop. Only if everyone stops looking." Danny grabbed Calloway's arm, mouthing, "It's her," while fumbling to put the phone on speaker. "Sarah, listen to me. We found the others. We know what happened. Just tell me where you are, and we'll come get you." A different voice came on the line. Male, older, calm, and controlled. "Mr. Caldwell, your sister is correct. She and Mr. Hartley are alive, and relatively unharmed. They will remain so as long as you and the authorities cease your investigation immediately." "Who is this?" "Someone who has survived in these mountains for 23 years by being very careful. Your sister's group stumbled into something they shouldn't have. 9 of them paid the price for their curiosity. 2 were salvageable." Danny's rage boiled over. "You murdered 9 people." "I harvested them." The voice remained eerily calm. "Just as I've harvested dozens of others who thought they could come to my mountain, my territory, without consequence. But your sister, she understood, she adapted. She and Kevin have been quite helpful these past 2 years." "You're lying." October 30th, 2016. You came to the mountain alone, searched the Cedar Creek Trail for 6 hours. You sat on a fallen log near the waterfall and cried for 13 minutes. You left a missing poster on the trail marker even though they'd all been removed by Park Services. Sarah watched you the entire time. Danny's blood turned to ice. He remembered that day. He'd felt like someone was watching him, but he'd chalked it up to paranoia. She wanted to call out to you, the voice continued. But she knew what would happen if she did. She's learned the rules. Stay quiet, stay useful, stay alive. What do you want? I want what I've always wanted, to be left alone. The police will find enough evidence in that ravine to close their case. 9 bodies, a tragic accident, perhaps an animal attack. The families will have closure. And in return, Sarah and Kevin continue their education. Education? Someone has to maintain the hunting grounds after I'm gone. Your sister shows remarkable promise. She's developed quite the eye for photography. Danny's gaze snapped back to the Polaroids on the tree. The recent ones. The thought that Sarah might have taken some of them made him physically ill. Let me talk to her again. No, this is your only communication. Leave the mountain. Stop searching. Or I'll add 2 more photos to my collection. Close-ups this time. The line went dead. Danny immediately tried calling back, but the number was already disconnected. He turned to Calloway, who was barking orders into her radio. We need triangulation on that call, now. Get the tech team. It was a satellite phone, one of the techs said, looking at his equipment. Bounce through at least 3 proxies. We've got nothing. Danny slammed his fist against the tree, not caring that it split his knuckles open. She's alive. She's up there somewhere, and he's making her... Jesus Christ, what has he done to her? Calloway guided him away from the tree, from the horrified investigators, from the photos that would haunt him forever. Danny, we need to think about this carefully. If he's telling the truth, you heard him. He knew exactly where I was last year, exactly what I did. Sarah was watching me, and I didn't even know? His voice cracked. My sister's been alive this whole time, 2 years, and she couldn't. They sat on a fallen log while a medic cleaned and bandaged Danny's hand. Around them, the investigation continued. More photos were being cataloged. The journal was being processed. Somewhere in the ravine below, forensic teams were still extracting the remains of 9 young people who just wanted to go camping. We can't stop the investigation, Calloway said finally. 9 people are dead. Their families deserve answers. And what about Sarah? What about Kevin? We'll find them. This guy just made a mistake. He made contact. That gives us something to work with. She pulled out her phone, showing Danny a topographical map of Blackridge Mountain. Based on the 2-year timeline and what he said about territory, he has to have a permanent structure up here, somewhere off the marked trails, but with access to power for those photo developments, supplies, possibly internet for that satellite phone. Danny studied the map, his mind racing. He said my mountain, like he owns it. We checked. Most of Blackridge is national forest, but there are some private holdings from before the park was established. Old mining claims, a few grandfathered properties. How many? 7 properties totaling about 300 acres, scattered across the north face. She zoomed in on the map. But here's the interesting part. One of them has been paying property taxes regularly for the past 40 years. Owner listed as V. Aldridge. Victor Aldridge, Danny read from her screen. Who is he? According to the records, he inherited the land from his father in 1976. 47 acres, including an old mining operation. But here's the thing. There's no record of Victor Aldridge anywhere else. No driver's license, no social security number, no birth certificate. A fake name. Or someone who's been very careful about staying off the grid. Calloway pulled up another document. The property taxes are paid in cash every year, always on time, always exact change, delivered by mail with no return address. A commotion near the photo tree drew their attention. One of the investigators was calling Calloway over, his face pale. They'd found something behind the metal box that held the journal. It was a Polaroid camera, modern, expensive, with a telephoto lens attachment. And stuck to it was a post-it note with today's date and a single line. She's getting better at this. V. Attached to the note was a fresh Polaroid. It showed Danny and Calloway sitting on the log just minutes ago, taken from somewhere above them, somewhere in the canopy. Danny spun around, scanning the trees, but saw nothing. He's here, right now, watching us. Calloway's hand moved to her weapon, but she didn't draw it. Everyone stay calm. Maintain positions. She spoke into her radio quietly, professionally, but Danny could see the tension in her shoulders. Another text came through on Danny's phone. This time, it was a photo attachment. Sarah and Kevin standing in what looked like a cave or mine shaft. They were thin but alive, dressed in worn camping clothes. Sarah's hair was longer, unkempt. Kevin had a beard, but what made Danny's stomach turn was their expressions. They weren't scared. They weren't pleading for help. They were smiling, and Sarah was holding a camera. Danny showed the photo to Calloway, his hands trembling. Sarah's smile wasn't forced or fearful. It looked genuine, relaxed, like she was posing for a family photo. Kevin had his arm around her shoulders, casual and comfortable. Behind them, the cave walls were lined with what looked like supplies, canned goods, water bottles, camping equipment. "They don't look like prisoners," Calloway said quietly. "Stockholm Syndrome," Danny insisted. "It's been 2 years. He's had 2 years to break them down, make them dependent on him." But even as he said it, doubt crept in. Sarah's eyes in the photo were clear, alert. She'd lost weight but didn't look malnourished. Her clothes were worn but clean. And that camera in her hands, it looked expensive, well-maintained. Another text came through. "Ask yourself why only 2 survived." V. Before Danny could respond, his phone rang. Sarah again. "Put it on speaker," Calloway whispered, gesturing for the tech team to start recording. "Sarah? I'm sorry about earlier." Her voice was stronger now, more like the sister he remembered. He was listening. I had to say what he wanted. "Are you alone now?" "For a few minutes. Danny, you need to understand something. That night, October 15th, we found things. Evidence of what had been happening up here. Brandon wanted to leave immediately, go to the police, but Trevor and Matt, they wanted to explore more, document everything. They thought we'd stumbled onto some serial killer's dumping ground." Her voice caught. Danny could hear her taking deep breaths. "We split up. Stupid, I know. Brandon took Nicole, Jessica, and Chloe back toward the main trail to get cell service. Trevor and Matt went to investigate another campsite we'd found. Ashley, Jason, and Ryan stayed at our camp. Kevin and we went looking for water. That's when we heard the screaming." Danny closed his eyes, imagining it. 11 friends scattered across the dark mountain, separated, vulnerable. It happened so fast. By the time Kevin and I got back to camp, Ashley and Jason were gone. Ryan was crawling toward the fire, his leg twisted wrong, crying. Then this man stepped out of the shadows. Older, maybe 60s, carrying an old hunting rifle. He looked at Ryan, then at us, and he said the strangest thing. "What?" he said. "Which one of you takes photographs?" Danny's eyes snapped to the Polaroids covering the tree. "What did you say?" I was too terrified to speak, but Kevin, God, Danny, Kevin saved my life. He pointed at me and said, "She does. She's a photography major. She's really good." And it was true. You know, I've been taking pictures since high school. Had my camera with me on the trip. "Sarah, what happened to the others?" A long pause. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. "He made us choose." "What?" "He said he only needed 2 to learn, 2 to carry on. The rest were surplus. He made Kevin and me choose who would live." Danny's stomach heaved. "No, you wouldn't." "We refused." "Of course we refused. But then he shot Ryan, right there, while we watched, and he started walking toward where Brandon's group had gone. He knew exactly where they were, had been tracking them. He gave us 10 seconds to decide, or he'd kill everyone. Calloway was writing frantically, noting everything. Around them, other investigators had stopped working, listening to Sarah's confession echo through the mountains. "I chose Kevin," Sarah continued, her voice breaking. "And Kevin chose me. The others. He marched them to the ravine, made us watch, said if we looked away, if we ran, he'd hunt us down like the others he'd hunted over the years." "Sarah, Jesus Christ." "But here's what you need to understand, Danny. After it was over, he showed us something, a whole network of caves connected to the old Blackridge mine. There are people living up here, not just him, others who've survived previous hunts. Some have been here for years." Danny and Calloway exchanged shocked looks. "How many others?" "I don't know exactly. They come and go. Some he releases after they've learned enough. Some choose to stay. He calls it the collection, people he's saved from the weakness of modern society, taught to survive, to hunt, to appreciate the mountain." "Sarah, that's insane. He's a serial killer?" "Is he, or is he something else?" "Danny, I've seen the photos going back decades, the journal entries. He doesn't kill everyone. He selects. He preserves. The ones who show promise, who demonstrate skills, who can adapt, they get a choice." "A choice? He murdered 9 people. 9 people who would have reported him, who would have brought police, reporters, developers. 9 people who would have destroyed what he's built up here. But Kevin and I, we understood. We adapted." Danny heard something in her voice that terrified him more than anything else. Pride. "You need to get out of there, both of you. Tell me where you are and—" "I am out, Danny." The words hit him like ice water. "What?" "I leave the mountain all the time now. I was in town last week, walked right past you at the grocery store. You didn't even recognize me." Danny's mind reeled, trying to remember everyone he'd passed at the store. It wasn't possible. He would have known his own sister. "You're lying." "Aisle 7. You were buying those protein bars you like. I was 3 feet away, wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses." Victor was right. People see what they expect to see, and nobody expects to see the dead. "Prove it." "You have a new girlfriend. Rebecca, works at the bank. You've been dating for 3 months. You haven't told her about me yet because you don't want to scare her off with your complicated family situation." Danny's legs gave out. He sat hard on the ground, the phone shaking in his hand. Only a handful of people knew about Rebecca. Sarah couldn't know unless— "You've been watching me." "We all watch. That's what we do. We document. We preserve. We protect the mountain and its secrets." There was a pause, then Sarah's voice softened. "Danny, I know this is hard to understand, but I'm okay. I'm more than okay. I'm free in a way I never was before. No student loans, no job interviews, no pressure to be something I'm not. Up here, I'm learning things, real things. How to track, how to hunt, how to survive. How to kill? How to select? There's a difference? Sarah, please. The investigators are going to find more than they bargained for in those caves. Bodies from years ago, but also supplies, equipment, proof that people have been living here successfully for decades. They're going to realize this is bigger than one man. And when they do, they're going to have to make a choice. What kind of choice? Storm the caves and risk killing the victims they're supposed to be saving? Or negotiate? Because, Danny, we're not all victims anymore. Some of us have become something else. The line went dead. Calloway immediately called for a search team to investigate the old Blackridge mine, but Danny could see the conflict in her eyes. If Sarah was telling the truth, they weren't dealing with a simple hostage situation. They were dealing with a cult, a community, a decades-old system of predator and prey where the lines had become blurred. "She's been brainwashed," Danny said, but the words felt hollow. "Maybe," Calloway replied. "Or maybe she's trying to tell us something. That conversation, she knew we were recording. She gave us locations, numbers, details. Either she's completely under his control, or she's playing a longer game than we realize." Danny's phone buzzed with another photo. This one showed the entrance to a mine shaft, partially hidden by overgrowth. But what made his blood run cold was the figure standing beside it. It was Sarah, holding a sign. Come alone or don't come at all. You have 24 hours to decide. S. She wasn't smiling anymore. Her expression was serious, urgent, and in her other hand, barely visible, she held something that might have been a knife. Or might have been a key. Danny stared at the photo for a full minute, zooming in on Sarah's hand. It was definitely a key, old-fashioned, brass, the kind that might open a padlock or an old door. She was holding it at an angle that made it visible to the camera, but would look natural to anyone standing near her. She's trying to tell us something, he said, showing Calloway the detail. The detective studied it, then called over one of her tech specialists. Can you enhance this section? While they worked on the image, Danny's mind raced. Sarah had been free to leave the mountain. She'd been in town, close enough to touch him, and hadn't made contact. Either she was completely broken, or she was trapped in some other way. Detective! An investigator jogged over from the photo tree. We found something else, hidden in the journal. There's a section written in different handwriting. Looks like someone added pages recently. They returned to the tree where the journal was being processed. The tech had separated several pages that were clearly newer than the rest, the paper less yellowed, the ink darker. The handwriting was feminine, neat. Sarah's. October 1st, 2017. He makes us write our observations, says documentation is as important as the hunt itself. I've been here 23 months. Kevin stopped counting after the first year. There are 17 of us total, 5 from the 2009 group, 3 from 2011, 2 from 2013, 4 from 2014, Kevin and me from 2015, and 3 from last year, 2016. We didn't know about last year's hunt until after. He kept us separated. The rules are simple. Learn the craft, prove your worth, earn your freedom. Some have earned it. Marie from the 2009 group left last Christmas. She sends letters. Has a job in Denver now. Victor says she's one of his greatest successes. Danny felt sick. Marie Santos, the girl whose ID Brandon found. Calloway was already on her phone, calling the FBI. I need a location on Marie Santos. Last known address, Denver, Colorado. Possible victim turned accomplice in multiple homicides. The journal entries continued. October 5th, 2017. Victor is getting older. He talks about succession, about who will inherit the mountain. He watches us all, evaluating. Kevin thinks we're being tested. I know we are. The others don't know Victor is sick. Lung cancer, probably from years of smoking. He hides it well, but I see the blood when he coughs. He's got maybe 6 months, maybe less. He needs to choose someone before he dies. Someone to continue the tradition, someone who understands the importance of the selection process. My God, Calloway breathed. He's training his replacement. The next entry was dated just 3 days ago, October 12th, 2017. It's almost time for this year's hunt. Victor has chosen the group, college kids from Portland, planning to camp near Crystal Lake. 12 of them. Too many, he says. We'll need to cull to 4 at most. But I've been thinking, what if there was another way? What if instead of selecting from victims, we selected a different kind of survivor? Danny won't understand at first, but he's strong, stronger than he knows. And he's been hunting too, in his way. Hunting for me, hunting for truth. He just needs the right motivation. She's planning something, Danny said, his voice tight. This isn't Stockholm Syndrome. She's planning something. The final entry was from yesterday, October 14th, 2017. Tomorrow is the anniversary. Victor wants to make it special. He's planned an elaborate hunt for the Portland group, but I've convinced him to wait. Told him the police presence would make it too risky. He doesn't know I've been leaving markers. Doesn't know I led that hiker's dog to the ravine. Doesn't know I've been preparing for this for months. By the time anyone reads this, it will have started. Danny will come for me. I know he will. And when he does, he'll have to make the same choice we all did: survive and adapt, or die fighting. But I'm giving him something the rest of us never had: a chance to fight back with full knowledge of what he's facing. The key is hidden where Mom used to hide our Christmas presents. He'll remember. Danny's breath caught. The old hollow oak tree, behind our house. He was already moving, but Calloway caught his arm. This could be a trap. She's been with him for 2 years. She could be... She led you to the bodies. She's been leaving breadcrumbs this whole time. Danny pulled free. My sister is trying to take down a serial killer from the inside, and she needs my help. Then we're coming with you. No? Danny showed her the photo again. Come alone or don't come at all. If Victor sees police, he'll kill her and Kevin and disappear. You know these mountains, thousands of acres of wilderness. He could hide forever. We can't let a civilian... I'm not asking permission. Danny's voice was steel. My sister has been surviving in hell for 2 years, playing some kind of long game to stop this psychopath. The least I can do is trust her. Calloway stared at him for a long moment, then made a decision. Wire, GPS tracker, panic button, non-negotiable. While the tech team prepared the equipment, Danny drove down the mountain toward his childhood home, now empty since their parents had died in a car accident 3 years ago, a year before Sarah disappeared. He'd kept the house, unable to sell it, maintaining it like a shrine to the family that no longer existed. The hollow oak was exactly as he remembered it, standing at the edge of the property line. He reached into the hole where their mother used to hide Christmas presents, his fingers finding something metal wrapped in plastic. It wasn't just a key. It was a set of keys, along with a hand-drawn map and a note in Sarah's handwriting. Danny. The main key opens the old mine entrance at these coordinates. The others are for chains inside. There are 12 people being held in the lower chambers, not victims from our group, but others he's been training. Victor never lets more than 3 of us roam free at a time. The rest are insurance. If one runs, others die. That's why I couldn't leave. That's why none of us could. He'll be watching the main entrance, but there's a ventilation shaft on the north side. You can fit. I made sure of it. Come at exactly 9:47 p.m. I'll make sure Victor is distracted. Trust me. Please. P.S. Bring the gun Dad kept in his study. You're going to need it. Danny checked his watch. 4:15 p.m., just over 5 hours. He looked at the map, memorizing every detail. The ventilation shaft, the layout of the tunnels, the chamber where the others were kept, and at the bottom, circled 3 times, a room marked Victor's Gallery. Another note beside it. This is where he keeps the trophies, and the evidence that could save us all. Danny retrieved his father's Glock from the study safe, checked the magazine, and tucked it into his waistband. Then he called Calloway. I've got a way in, and a plan. Danny, whatever you're thinking... Sarah's been planning this for months. She's been moving pieces into position, waiting for the right moment. She needed someone on the outside she could trust, someone who would come for her no matter what. You, me. He looked at the photo tree coordinates on the map. And in 5 hours, we're going to end this, one way or another. He could hear Calloway breathing on the other end of the line, weighing her options. We'll have teams positioned around the mountain the moment you give the signal. No signal. If this goes right, Sarah and I will walk out with the survivors. If it goes wrong... He paused, thinking of the ravine full of bodies. If it goes wrong, at least you'll know where to look. Danny! He hung up and started preparing. 5 hours to save his sister. 5 hours to end a 23-year reign of terror. 5 hours to prove that sometimes the hunted could become the hunter. Danny parked his car a mile from the coordinates Sarah had provided, hiking the rest of the way through dense forest as darkness fell. The wire Calloway had given him chafed against his chest. The GPS tracker felt heavy in his pocket, but the Glock at his waistband was reassuring. At 9:15 p.m. he found the ventilation shaft, a rusted grate barely visible among the rocks and undergrowth. Just as Sarah had promised, the bolts had been loosened. He could remove it with his hands. He was about to enter when his phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number. Change of plans. He knows. S. Before Danny could react, a voice spoke from the darkness behind him. "Mr. Caldwell, I was wondering when you'd arrive." Danny spun, hand moving to his weapon, but froze when he saw the scene before him. Victor Aldridge stood 10 feet away, holding a rifle. He was exactly as Sarah had described, 60s, weathered, with the kind of lean strength that came from decades of mountain living. But it was the figure kneeling beside him that made Danny's blood freeze. Kevin Hartley. Hands bound, duct tape over his mouth, a knife pressed to his throat. "Your sister thought she was clever," Victor said, his voice calm, conversational. "Leaving breadcrumbs, playing detective. But I've been doing this for 23 years, Mr. Caldwell. I know when I'm being hunted." "Where's Sarah?" "Safe, for now, though her safety depends entirely on you." Victor adjusted his grip on the knife, and Kevin made a muffled sound of pain. "Take out your phone, your gun, and that wire you're wearing, slowly." Danny complied, setting everything on the ground. "Kick them away," the items scattered into the underbrush. "Good. Now we can have an honest conversation." Victor gestured with the rifle. "Walk. We're going to visit your sister." They moved through the forest, Kevin stumbling ahead of them, Victor keeping the rifle trained on Danny's back. The main mine entrance appeared through the trees, a black mouth in the mountainside, supported by ancient timbers. "She told you about Marie Santos," Victor said as they walked. "Did she tell you the whole truth? That Marie now runs one of the most successful wilderness therapy programs in Colorado? That she's helped dozens of troubled young people find themselves? She's a killer? She's evolved, as your sister has evolved, as you're about to evolve." They entered the mine, following a string of LED lights that had been strung along the ceiling. The tunnel sloped downward, branching into multiple passages. Victor guided them left, then right, navigating with the confidence of someone who knew every inch of the space. "Do you know why I choose October, Mr. Caldwell?" Danny remained silent. "It's when the mountain is most beautiful, when the leaves turn to fire and the air turns crisp, when people feel most alive, most connected to nature. That's when they're ready for transformation." They emerged into a large chamber lit by camping lanterns. Danny's breath caught. The room was filled with people. At least 15 of them, sitting on makeshift furniture, some reading, others preparing food on camp stoves. They looked up as the group entered, and Danny recognized faces from missing person posters he'd studied over the years. And there, in the center of the room, was Sarah. She stood up slowly, her expression unreadable. "Hello, Danny." "Sarah, what is this?" "This is the collection," Victor said, prodding Danny forward with the rifle. "My life's work, not victims, Mr. Caldwell. Students, survivors, the next evolution of humanity." One of the others, a young man who couldn't have been older than 25, approached. "Is this him, Sarah's brother?" "Yes, Tom." Victor smiled. "Mr. Caldwell is about to join our family, one way or another." Sarah moved closer, and Danny could see the conflict in her eyes. "Danny, there are things you don't understand, things I couldn't tell you. You said he was holding people prisoner. He is." She gestured to several younger people seated against the far wall, chains visible around their ankles. "The ones still learning, still resisting, but the rest of us are free to leave," Victor finished. "Ask any of them. Marie left. So did James, Patricia, Marcus. They send letters. They visit sometimes, because what they learned here, what they became here, made them better than they ever were in your world." "You're insane," Victor laughed, a dry, rattling sound that turned into a cough. He covered his mouth, and Danny saw blood on his hand when he pulled it away. "Perhaps. But I'm also dying. And before I go, I need to ensure my work continues." He looked at Sarah. "I thought it would be you, my dear. You showed such promise, such natural talent. But then you started your little rebellion. Sarah's face remained neutral. "I don't know what you mean." "The journal entries, the breadcrumbs, leading them to the ravine." Victor shook his head sadly. "Did you think I wouldn't notice? I've been watching you for months, letting you think you were clever, wondering what your endgame was." He gestured to Kevin, still kneeling with the knife at his throat. "And then I realized you weren't trying to escape. You were trying to bring your brother here. You were trying to choose your own successor." Danny looked at Sarah, horror dawning. "What?" "He's dying, Danny," Sarah said quietly. "Someone has to take over. Someone has to lead the collection. And if it's not someone who understands, who cares about these people, it'll be someone like Tom." The young man Victor had addressed smiled coldly. "I've been here 8 years. I've earned the right to lead." "You've earned the right to be a psychopath," Sarah shot back. "You enjoy the hunts. You enjoy the killing." "And you don't?" Tom stepped closer to her. "I've seen your photographs, Sarah, the way you capture their fear, their final moments. You're an artist." "Enough," Victor commanded. "This is why we need fresh blood, new perspective." He looked at Danny. "Your sister believes you have what it takes, that you could modernize our operation, make it sustainable for another generation." "I'm not going to help you murder people." "No? Then Kevin dies. Then Sarah. Then you. And Tom takes over, and I guarantee his methods will be far less selective than mine." Victor moved the knife, drawing a thin line of blood across Kevin's throat. Kevin's muffled scream echoed through the chamber. "Stop!" Danny stepped forward, but Tom and 2 others blocked his path. "There is another option," Victor said. "An old tradition, trial by hunt." Sarah's head snapped up. "Victor, no." "What's trial by hunt?" Danny asked. Victor smiled. "You and Tom, in the woods. Tonight. Winner takes everything. Leadership of the collection. Freedom for those you choose to free. The right to reshape this community as you see fit." "And if I refuse?" "Then I kill Kevin now, chain you up with the others, and let Tom have his way with your sister before I die, which, given my condition, could be any day now." Danny looked at Sarah, searching her face for some sign, some indication of what she wanted him to do. She gave an almost imperceptible nod. "What are the rules?" "No rules," Tom said eagerly. "Just the forest, the dark, and whatever weapons we can find or make. First one back with proof of the other's death wins." "Danny, you don't have to do this," Sarah said, but her eyes said differently. "Yes," Danny said, not looking away from his sister. "I do." Victor clapped his hands once. "Excellent. Tom, you have 10 minutes to prepare. Mr. Caldwell, the same. Then we begin." As Tom moved to gather supplies, Sarah approached Danny. She hugged him, and he felt her slip something into his pocket. "The old hiking trail," she whispered in his ear. "The one Dad showed us. Remember?" Before he could respond, she pulled away. "May the best hunter win," Victor said, that rattling laugh following Danny as he was led away to prepare for a hunt where he would be both predator and prey. Danny was given access to a supply cache, rope, a flashlight, a hunting knife, and basic camping gear. As he gathered items, his fingers found what Sarah had slipped into his pocket, a small compass and a folded piece of paper. He unfolded it carefully, shielding it from view. Sarah's handwriting, cramped and urgent. "Tom keeps trophies in a hollow tree near Crow's Point. He's killed 3 who tried to leave. Victor doesn't know. Use this." Danny pocketed the note, his mind racing. Sarah wasn't just playing a long game against Victor. She was maneuvering against Tom, too. "Time's up," Victor called. They gathered at the mine entrance. Tom had equipped himself with a compound bow he'd apparently been maintaining, plus a large hunting knife. His confidence was unsettling. This wasn't his first hunt. "The boundaries are the mountain itself," Victor announced to the assembled collection. "No leaving Blackridge, no outside help. You have until dawn. If neither returns by then, both forfeit, and I choose my own successor." Tom grinned at Danny. "I'll make it quick, out of respect for Sarah." "Tom," Victor said sharply, "remember, this is about succession, not pleasure. Conduct yourself with dignity." "Of course." Tom's smile didn't waver. "I always do." They were positioned at opposite ends of the mine clearing, about 50 yards apart. Victor fired a shot into the air, and the hunt began. Tom immediately melted into the forest, moving with practiced silence. Danny ran in the opposite direction, crashing through underbrush, deliberately making noise. He needed Tom to think he was panicking, fleeing blindly. The old hiking trail Sarah had mentioned was a path their father had shown them years ago, barely visible, used by deer more than people. It led to a series of caves that connected back to the mine through natural passages. If Danny could reach them. His phone, confiscated earlier, was gone, but the wire Calloway had given him had a backup transmitter sewn into the lining of his jacket. It was still broadcasting, though he had no way to communicate. The FBI would be tracking his movement, watching him run through the forest, probably wondering what the hell was happening. A branch snapped behind him. Too close. Danny dove sideways just as an arrow whistled past, embedding in a tree trunk where his head had been. Tom was already tracking him, using the noise to follow. Danny changed tactics, moving more carefully, using the techniques Sarah had inadvertently taught him through her journal entries. Stay low, step on rocks when possible, move with the wind to mask sound. 20 minutes passed. The moon was rising, casting silver light through the canopy. Danny found the deer trail and followed it upward, toward Crow's Point. If Sarah was right about Tom's trophies. Another arrow, this one grazing his shoulder, tearing through jacket and skin. Danny bit back a cry and kept moving. Tom was hurting him, he realized, driving him toward something. Then he heard it, the sound of running water, a stream. And Danny remembered something from Brandon's journal. Sound of water masks everything else. Can't hear anything over it. Tom was driving him toward the stream where the sound would cover his approach. Danny stopped, doubling back quietly. He found a position behind a fallen log and waited, controlling his breathing, watching the shadows. Tom emerged from the trees 5 minutes later, bow drawn, scanning for movement. He was good, professional, patient. But he was expecting Danny to be at the stream. Danny let him pass, then followed at a distance. Tom reached the water and stopped, confused. He knelt, checking for tracks, and that's when Danny saw them, small bones hanging from Tom's belt. Finger bones by the look of them. Trophies. Sarah had been right. Tom had been killing long before tonight. Danny picked up a rock and threw it across the stream. Tom spun, firing an arrow instantly at the sound. In that moment of distraction, Danny charged. They collided hard, rolling down the embankment into the shallow water. The bow went flying. Tom's knife came out, slashing wildly. Danny caught his wrist, and they struggled in the icy stream, each trying to gain control of the blade. Tom was stronger than he looked, with years of mountain living behind him. But Danny had something Tom didn't, desperation and rage for what had been done to his sister. The knife went flying. They separated, both gasping, circling each other in the knee-deep water. "She talked about you constantly," Tom panted. "Danny this, Danny that. How you'd come for her. How you'd save everyone." He spat blood. "But you're just another soft city boy playing hero." "Maybe," Danny said, "but I'm not a serial killer collecting finger bones." Tom's expression shifted, becoming genuinely confused. "Is that what you think? That we're killers?" He laughed. "We're evolutionists. We're preparing humanity for what's coming. When society collapses, when the cities burn, we'll be the ones who survive." "You're insane." "Am I? Look around. Climate change, political collapse, economic disaster. It's all coming. Victor saw it decades ago. He's been building an ark, and your sister." Tom's eyes gleamed. "Your sister understands. She's documented everything, every lesson, every survival technique, every necessary sacrifice." They circled each other, both looking for an opening. "She played you perfectly," Tom continued. "Made you think she was a victim, a prisoner, but she's been free for over a year. She could have left any time. Instead, she chose to bring you here. You're lying. Am I? Ask yourself, why didn't she just escape when she was in town? Why leave clues instead of going to the police? Because she needs someone to take over when Victor dies, someone she can control. Danny's mind reeled, but he kept his focus. Tom was trying to distract him, make him doubt. Tom lunged, going for a tackle. Danny sidestepped, using Tom's momentum to drive him face first into the water. But Tom rolled, kicking Danny's legs out from under him. They fought in the stream, brutal and desperate. Tom got his hands around Danny's throat, forcing him under. Water filled Danny's lungs. His vision sparked. His hand found a river rock, smooth and heavy. He swung it with all his strength, connecting with Tom's temple. Tom went limp, falling sideways into the current. Danny gasped for air, coughing up water, watching Tom's unconscious form start to drift downstream. For a moment, he considered letting the current take him. Then he grabbed Tom's jacket, dragging him to the bank. He wasn't a killer, not yet. Tom was breathing but unconscious. Danny used the rope from his pack to bind him thoroughly, then searched his pockets. He found photos, Polaroids of 3 young people, all in their 20s, all clearly dead. Sarah had been right. Tom had been killing collection members who tried to leave. Danny also found a radio. He turned it on and immediately heard Victor's voice. "Tom, report. The FBI is moving toward the mine. Whatever you're doing, finish it quickly." Danny keyed the radio. "Tom's done. This is Danny." Silence. Then, "Is he dead?" "No, but he's finished. I have evidence he's been killing collection members. 3 murders you didn't authorize." A longer silence. Then Victor laughed, that rattling, dying sound. "Clever boy, just like your sister. Bring him back. We have much to discuss." "The FBI will find exactly what I want them to find. Hurry now. The real test is just beginning." As Danny hauled Tom's unconscious form through the forest, he realized the hunt had never been about Tom at all. It had been about proving Danny could make the hard choices, could fight but not kill, could think beyond violence to strategy, just like Sarah had been doing for 2 years. The test wasn't over. It was just beginning. And somewhere in that mine, his sister was waiting to see if her brother was truly ready for what came next. Danny dragged Tom's unconscious body back to the mine entrance, where the collection had assembled. Sarah stood beside Victor, her face unreadable. Kevin was still bound, but had been moved to sit against the wall. The chained prisoners watched from the shadows, hope flickering in their eyes. "Impressive," Victor said, examining Tom's bound form. "You defeated him, but didn't kill him. That shows restraint. Wisdom." "He's a murderer," Danny said, throwing the Polaroids at Victor's feet. "He's been killing people who tried to leave?" Victor picked up the photos, studying them with detached interest. "Michael Chen, Lisa Cartwright, David Reeves." He sighed. "I wondered what happened to them. They said they were leaving for new lives." "You didn't know?" Sarah's voice was sharp with surprise. "My dear, I'm dying. I haven't been tracking everyone as closely as I should." Victor looked at Tom's unconscious form with disappointment. 8 years of training, and he became the very thing we're trying to evolve beyond, a common killer. "As opposed to an uncommon one?" Danny challenged. Victor's eyes gleamed. "Tell me, Mr. Caldwell, in the stream, when you had the rock in your hand and Tom was vulnerable, what stayed your hand?" Danny didn't answer. "It wasn't morality. It was calculation. You realized a dead Tom would make you a killer in the eyes of the law, the collection, your sister. But a living Tom, a defeated Tom, a proven murderer Tom, that gives you leverage." "Danny's not like you," Sarah said. "No, he tracked Tom using information you provided. He turned Tom's tactics against him. He chose victory through evidence rather than violence." Victor coughed, specks of blood hitting his hand. "He's exactly like us, like you." The sound of helicopters suddenly echoed through the forest. FBI closing in fast. "And now," Victor said, "the real choice begins. He pulled out a detonator, and Danny's blood went cold. The mine is rigged with explosives. 23 years of preparation for this moment. When the authorities come, I can bury all the evidence, all the prisoners, all the secrets, or ... Or what? Danny asked. Or you take my place, officially. Legally? Victor pulled out a folder of documents. Power of attorney, transfer of property, bank accounts in Switzerland containing 40 years of carefully invested funds. Everything you need to maintain the collection, to protect these people, to continue the work. You're insane if you think... The FBI is 3 minutes out, Victor interrupted. In 3 minutes they'll storm this mine. When they do, I press this button. Everyone dies. Your sister, Kevin, the chained prisoners, the collection members who've done nothing but try to survive. Or you sign these papers, and I surrender peacefully. Danny, don't, Sarah said urgently. There has to be another way. Is there? Victor asked her. You've been planning this for months, Sarah. Setting up your brother as my replacement. Well, here's your chance. He signs, or everyone dies. The helicopters were getting closer. Danny could hear vehicles on the mountain road below. If I sign, then what? Then you become the legal owner of 300 acres of mountain property. The collection becomes a legitimate survival training commune. The prisoners are freed, and the FBI finds a dying old man who confesses to the historical murders but claims the recent deaths were Tom's doing. And the collection members are free to leave or stay, under your leadership. Danny looked at Sarah. She had tears in her eyes, but she nodded slowly. This is what you planned, Danny said to her. Isn't it? You knew he'd make this offer. I hoped there would be another way, she whispered. But yes, someone has to protect them. The ones who've been here for years, who can't integrate back into society. The ones who've been broken and rebuilt. They need a leader who understands both worlds. 2 minutes, Victor said calmly. Danny thought of the chained prisoners, innocent people who just wanted to go home. He thought of Kevin, who'd survived 2 years of hell. He thought of the collection members, victims turned into something else, people who might be saved or might be too far gone. If I sign, you confess to everything? All the murders? The ones I committed, yes. 9 from your sister's group, though I'll maintain Sarah and Kevin were willing participants who've been free to leave for over a year. That's a lie. Is it? Can you prove it? Can they? Victor smiled. The beauty of Stockholm Syndrome is that it's indistinguishable from genuine conversion after enough time. The sound of boots on rocks. The FBI was at the tree line. 1 minute. Danny grabbed the papers, scanning them quickly. It was all there, legal transfer of everything, making him effectively the heir to a serial killer's empire. Danny, Sarah said softly, remember what Dad used to say? Sometimes the hardest choice and the right choice are the same thing. Their father had said that, usually before doing something difficult but necessary for the family. If I sign, everyone lives? Everyone lives, Victor confirmed, and you'll have the resources and legal standing to help them properly, to dismantle what should be dismantled and preserve what should be preserved. And if I don't? Victor held up the detonator. Then we all become part of the mountain. Another mystery, another tragedy, and somewhere else, someone else will start again. Because people like me don't disappear, Mr. Caldwell. We evolve. FBI, everyone out of the mine now, the voice echoed from outside. Choose, Victor said. Danny looked at Sarah one last time. She mouthed a single word. Please. He signed the papers. Victor smiled, set down the detonator, and raised his hands. Tell them I surrender. Tell them I'll confess to everything. Tell them the nightmare is over. But as FBI agents flooded into the mine, as Victor was taken into custody, as the prisoners were freed, and the collection members were catalogued and questioned, Danny realized the nightmare wasn't over. It had just changed form. He was now the legal owner of a mountain where dozens had died. The guardian of people so traumatized they might never recover. the keeper of secrets that could destroy lives if revealed. Sarah stood beside him as they watched Victor being led away in chains. The old man turned back once and called out, "Take care of them, Mr. Caldwell. They're your responsibility now." "Danny," Sarah said quietly, "there's something else you need to know, something I haven't told anyone." She pulled him aside, away from the FBI agents, away from the others. "What?" "Tom wasn't the only one hunting collection members who tried to leave." She met his eyes. "Victor has been testing us all, making us complicit, making us choose." "Sarah, what did you do?" "I survived," she said simply. "And I made sure you would too. But Danny, the photos I took, the documentation I provided, I wasn't just observing." The weight of her words settled on him like stones. "How many? Does it matter? We're alive. Kevin's alive. Some of the others are alive. That's what matters now." Danny looked at his sister, really looked at her. She was different, not just traumatized, but fundamentally changed. The girl who'd gone camping 2 years ago was gone. In her place stood someone who had learned to survive at any cost. Someone who had brought him here, manipulated events, orchestrated his transformation from searcher to heir. Someone who might be as dangerous as Victor himself. "What have you done, Sarah?" "What I had to," she replied. "What you'll have to do now, because the collection doesn't end with Victor's arrest. It can't. Too many people depend on it, and now they depend on you." As the FBI continued their investigation, as the collection members were interviewed and processed, as the evidence was cataloged and removed, Danny stood at the mine entrance, holding papers that made him the heir to a legacy of blood and survival. Tomorrow, the world would know about Victor Aldridge and his 23 years of hunting. But they would never know the whole truth, because Danny now owned that truth, and with it, the responsibility for everyone whose lives had been shattered and rebuilt on this mountain. The hunter had become the guardian. And Sarah, standing beside him with her camera, documenting everything, had become something else entirely. Something that might be worse than what she was supposedly saved from. 3 weeks had passed since Victor's arrest. Danny sat in the kitchen of his childhood home at 2 a.m., surrounded by legal documents, property deeds, and psychiatric evaluations of the 17 collection members. The FBI had released most of them after determining they were victims, not accomplices. But they had nowhere to go. His phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Hello, Danny?" The voice was calm, measured, familiar in a way that made his skin crawl. "Victor? How are you?" Prison phones are surprisingly easy to access when you have 40 years of accumulated favors. Victor coughed, that wet rattling sound. "I'm calling because you need to know something. Tom made bail yesterday." Danny's blood went cold. "That's impossible. He murdered 3 people." "His lawyer argues those deaths were self-defense during escape attempts. The photos prove nothing without bodies, and Tom's family has deep pockets. Oil money from Texas." "Where is he?" "That's why I'm calling. He blames you for destroying his future. You and Sarah both. He's coming for you." "Let him come. I'll call the FBI." "They won't help. Tom's officially innocent until proven guilty, and his lawyer has filed harassment charges against you for the assault at the stream. You're the aggressor in their narrative." Danny stood up, pacing to the window. The street outside was empty, quiet. "Why warn me?" "Because despite everything, I've grown fond of your sister, and she needs you alive. The collection needs you alive. Tom is unfinished. He learned to hunt, but never learned why we hunt. He'll come tonight." "How do you know?" "Because October 15th is tomorrow, the anniversary. He's theatrical like that." Victor paused. "There's a loaded shotgun in the basement of the main lodge on the property. Hidden panel behind the water heater. Sarah knows where." The line went dead. Danny immediately called Sarah, who was staying at the mountain property, helping the remaining collection members adjust. "Danny?" She sounded groggy. "It's 2 a.m. Tom's out. Victor says he's coming for us tonight." Silence. Then, "I'll wake the others." "No, this is between him and us. Get Kevin and get out of there." "I'm not running anymore, Danny. I'm done running." "Sarah." "He's probably already here, watching, waiting." Her voice was steady, calm, too calm. "I can feel him." Danny grabbed his father's Glock and headed for his car. "I'm coming up there. Don't do anything until—" The sound of breaking glass came through the phone, Sarah's sharp intake of breath. "He's in the lodge," she whispered. "Get out, now." "Can't. He's between me and the exit." He could hear her moving, soft footsteps. "Danny, remember what I taught you about the tunnels? The old mine connects to the lodge basement." "Sarah, if something happens to me, the evidence is in Victor's gallery. Everything. Photos, videos, documentation of everyone who was involved. Not just Victor and Tom, but the people who knew and did nothing, the rangers who looked the other way, the local cops who buried reports." More breaking glass, heavy footsteps. "Sarah!" A voice in the background, Tom calling out. "I know you're here. You and I have unfinished business." "Go to the mine," Sarah whispered urgently. "Use the maintenance tunnel. It comes up through the lodge floor. And Danny, whatever happens, I'm sorry." "Sorry for what?" The line went dead. Danny drove like a man possessed, taking the mountain curves at dangerous speeds. 90 minutes to the property. Too long, too far. His phone rang again. Kevin. "Danny, I'm at the lodge. Tom's inside with Sarah. I can see them through the window." "Don't go in there. Wait for me." "He has her at knife point. They're in the main room near the fireplace. He's making her look at photos." "What photos?" "The ones she took during the hunts." "Jesus, Danny, there are so many. She documented everything." Danny's mind raced. The maintenance tunnel Sarah mentioned. He knew where it came up. They'd explored it as kids during a family camping trip years ago, back when the lodge was just an abandoned building. "Kevin, listen carefully. Go to the old mine entrance, the one near the collapsed shed. There's a maintenance tunnel that leads to the lodge. We'll come up through the floor." "We?" "Just go." "I'm 20 minutes out." But as Danny turned onto the final stretch of mountain road, his headlights caught something that made his heart stop. A figure standing in the middle of the road. Waiting. Tom. Danny slammed on the brakes, the car skidding to a stop 10 feet away. Tom stood there casually, a hunting bow in one hand, that same cold smile on his face. "Hello, Danny. Lovely night for a hunt, isn't it?" "Where's Sarah?" "Safe, for now. Though safe is relative, isn't it?" Tom stepped closer, and Danny could see dried blood on his shirt, not his own. "Did you know your sister has been keeping trophies too? Photos of every person Victor harvested? Close-ups of their faces in those final moments. She's quite the artist." "You're lying?" "Am I?" Tom pulled out a Polaroid, held it up to Danny's headlights. It showed Jessica Vaughn from Sarah's camping group, terror etched on her face, taken moments before she died. In the corner, barely visible, was the reflection of the photographer in Jessica's eyes. It was Sarah. "She didn't just document for Victor," Tom continued. "She participated. She helped him choose who lived and who died. Your precious sister isn't a victim, Danny. She's a protege." Danny got out of the car slowly, hand near his weapon. "Even if that's true, it doesn't justify what you're doing." "Doesn't it? She destroyed my life, my future, everything I worked for." Tom notched an arrow. "But I'm not going to kill her. That would be too easy. I'm going to destroy her the way she destroyed me. Starting with you." Tom raised the bow, but Danny was already moving. The arrow whistled past his ear as he rolled behind the car. He drew the Glock, but Tom had melted into the forest. "You can't protect her forever, Danny." Tom's voice echoed from the trees. "She's a killer, just like Victor, just like me." Danny's phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. "He's lying, but not completely. Come to the lodge. We need to end this." Another text, this one with a photo attachment. It showed Sarah in what looked like the lodge's main room, but she wasn't alone or restrained. She was standing freely, holding something Danny couldn't quite make out. Then he realized what it was. The detonator Victor had threatened them with, the one connected to the explosives in the mine. But the mine wasn't empty anymore. The remaining collection members were sleeping there in the chambers that had become their temporary shelter while the FBI processed their cases. His phone rang. Sarah. "I have a confession to make," she said without preamble. "Tom's not entirely wrong. I did take those photos. I did help Victor choose. After the first few months, when he realized I had an eye for it, he made me his assistant." "Sarah? But here's what Tom doesn't know. Every photo I took, every piece of evidence I gathered, I duplicated. I have a complete record of every murder, every victim, every accomplice, including Tom's private hunts." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because in about 5 minutes, you're going to have to make a choice. Save me or save the collection. Tom's not here for revenge, Danny. He's here to eliminate witnesses. All of them." That's when Danny heard it. The sound of vehicles coming up the mountain road. Multiple engines, not FBI or police sirens. "Sarah, who's coming?" "Tom's family. His backup. They're going to clean house, make everything disappear, including us." Her voice was steady, resolved. "Unless we disappear first." "What are you planning?" "What Victor taught me, what I taught you. Sometimes to survive, you have to become something else, something worse than what's hunting you." The vehicles were getting closer. Danny could see headlights through the trees. "Get to the lodge, Danny. Bring Kevin. We're going to finish what we started 2 years ago." "Sarah, what did you do 2 years ago?" A long pause. Then, "I survived. And I made sure others didn't. But tonight, we're going to do something different. Tonight, we're going to make sure the truth survives, even if we don't." As Danny ran through the forest toward the lodge, Tom's arrow still somewhere behind him and unknown vehicles approaching from below, he realized the hunt wasn't over. It was just beginning. And Sarah, his sister, victim, survivor, or something else entirely, was about to show everyone what 2 years of Victor's training had really created. Danny reached the lodge as 3 black SUVs pulled into the clearing, their headlights illuminating the old wooden structure. Kevin was at the mine entrance, wide-eyed and trembling. "They're surrounding the building?" Kevin whispered. "I counted at least 8 people getting out." Through the lodge windows, Danny could see Sarah in the main room, still holding the detonator. She was extraordinarily calm, standing among dozens of Polaroids spread across the floor, the complete documentation of 23 years of hunts. Danny's phone buzzed. Sarah again. "Basement. Now both of you." They slipped through the mine's maintenance tunnel, emerging through a hidden panel in the lodge's basement. Sarah was waiting for them, but she wasn't alone. Tom stood beside her, arrow notched but not aimed, his face twisted with confusion and rage. "What is this?" Tom demanded. "The truth," Sarah said simply. She looked at Danny. "Tom's family aren't here to save him. They're here to eliminate him, and us, and everyone who knows about Blackridge." "You're lying," Tom spat. Sarah pulled out a phone, Tom's phone, and played a recording. "The boy's become a liability," a man's voice said. Texas accent, cold and businesslike. "His obsession with that mountain operation has drawn too much attention. Clean it up, everyone involved. Make it look like the old man had one last hunt before he died in prison." Tom's face went white. That's my father." "Your family's oil money?" Sarah continued. "It's been funding Victor's operation for 15 years. They used this place to disappear problems, business rivals, whistleblowers, people who knew too much. Victor provided a service, and your family paid well for it." Danny felt the pieces clicking together. "The missing persons Victor targeted were carefully selected. Some were random campers to maintain the pattern, but others were specific targets. Tom was supposed to take over the operation, but he became unstable, started hunting for pleasure instead of profit." "So they're cleaning house," Kevin said, understanding dawning on his face. Tom lowered his bow, his hands shaking. "My own family." "They're going to burn the lodge," Sarah said, "with us inside, along with all the evidence. Then they'll go to the mine and eliminate the witnesses. Make it look like Victor had accomplices who turned on each other." Heavy footsteps on the floor above. The killers were inside. "But," Sarah continued, holding up the detonator, "Victor was paranoid. He didn't just rig the mine. The lodge has explosives too, enough to turn this place and everyone in it to ash." "You're going to kill us all?" Tom asked. "No, I'm going to give us a choice." Sarah pulled out a laptop showing a screen full of uploaded files. "For the past 2 years, I've been digitizing everything, every photo, every document, every piece of evidence. It's all uploaded to servers around the world, set to release automatically in 6 hours unless I input a code." "What's on there?" Danny asked, though he was afraid he already knew. "Everything. The hunts, the victims, the clients who paid for disappearances, the officials who covered it up, names, dates, financial records, enough to bring down dozens of powerful people." Tom's phone buzzed, a text from upstairs. "Come out, son. We can discuss this." "They know I'm here," Tom said. "They knew you'd come here," Sarah corrected. "You were the bait to draw us all together. One location, one fire. Problem solved." "So what's your plan?" Danny demanded. Sarah looked at each of them in turn. "We can surrender and die. We can fight and probably die. Or we can disappear." "Disappear?" "The maintenance tunnel leads to an underground river. It flows out of the mountain 3 miles downstream. I've tested it. We can make it, but we have to go now, and we have to leave everything behind." "And them?" Kevin pointed upward. "I press this detonator. The lodge explodes. They die. The evidence releases in 6 hours, exposing everything." "That's murder," Danny said. "That's survival," Sarah countered. "They came here to murder us. 8 killers, Danny, professional cleaners. If we let them live, they'll hunt us forever." Tom laughed bitterly. "She's right. My family doesn't leave loose ends." "Sarah," Danny said, "if you do this, you become exactly what Victor wanted, a killer who justifies murder as evolution. And if I don't, we die. The collection members in the mine die, and the truth dies with us." Sarah's voice cracked for the first time. "I don't want to kill anyone, Danny, but I don't want to die either, and I definitely don't want those innocent people in the mine to die." A voice from upstairs, amplified by a megaphone. "You have 3 minutes to come out. After that, we burn the building." "They're not even going to try to negotiate," Tom said, genuine fear in his voice now. Sarah turned to her brother. "Danny, I need you to understand something. Those photos Tom showed you, the ones I took of the victims, I took them because Victor made me, but I took them specifically to document the crimes. Every photo has metadata, GPS coordinates, timestamps. They're not trophies. They're evidence. You still watched people die. I watched people die so that someday someone could prove they were murdered. I became complicit to gather evidence from the inside." Tears ran down her face. "Do you think I wanted this? Do you think I chose this?" The smell of gasoline drifted down from above. They were dousing the building. "Decide now," Sarah said, finger on the detonator. "Save the killers who came to murder us, or save the innocent people they'll kill after us." Danny looked at Kevin, who nodded slowly. He looked at Tom, who had dropped his bow and was staring at the ceiling like he could see through it to the family that had betrayed him. "There has to be another way," Danny said. "Sometimes there isn't," Sarah replied. "Sometimes the hardest choice and the right choice are the same thing," Danny finished. Their father's words. Smoke began seeping through the floorboards. They'd started the fire upstairs. "Choose, Danny, because in about 30 seconds we won't have a choice anymore." That's when they heard it, screaming from upstairs. Gunshots, the sound of bodies hitting the floor. Then footsteps, light and quick, coming down the basement stairs. A figure appeared in the doorway, holding a smoking pistol. It was Marie Santos, the missing girl from 2009, the one who supposedly had a new life in Colorado. "Hello, Sarah," she said calmly. "Victor sent me. He thought you might need backup." Behind her, Danny could hear sirens in the distance, getting closer. "You killed them?" Sarah asked. "Disabled them. The FBI will find 8 wounded professional killers caught in the act of arson and attempted murder." Marie smiled coldly. "Victor may be dying in prison, but he still has friends, and he considers you family, Sarah." Sarah lowered the detonator, her hands shaking. "It's over?" Kevin asked, voice barely a whisper. "This part is," Marie said. She looked at Tom. "Your father and uncle are among the wounded upstairs. They'll live to stand trial. Your family's empire is about to crumble very publicly." Tom sank to his knees, overwhelmed. Marie turned to Danny. "You have a choice to make. The FBI is 3 minutes out. You can tell them everything, about Sarah's involvement, about the photos she took, about how complicit she became. Or you can tell them she was a victim who gathered evidence to eventually expose the truth." "Why would you help us?" Danny asked. "Because Victor's dying wish was to protect Sarah, and because the collection needs leadership that understands both worlds, the civilized and the wild." Marie held out a set of keys. "There's a van behind the lodge. The collection members from the mine are already in it, waiting. You can all disappear tonight, start fresh somewhere else. Or you can stay and face whatever justice the authorities decide you deserve." The sirens were getting louder. The smoke was getting thicker. Danny looked at his sister, traumatized, compromised, but alive. At Kevin, broken but breathing. At Tom, betrayed by blood, but finally free of his family's shadow. "What's it going to be, Danny?" Sarah asked. "Truth or survival?" "Both," Danny said, making his decision. "We stay, we face it, we tell them everything, and we let justice take its course." Sarah nodded slowly, tears streaming down her face. "Even if it means I go to prison?" "Even then, because the truth is the only thing that will actually set us free." As the FBI agents stormed the building, as the wounded killers were arrested, as the smoke cleared and the evidence was preserved, Danny held his sister's hand. They would face whatever came next together. The hunt was over. But the reckoning had just begun. 6 months later, Danny stood in a federal courthouse in Louisville, watching as Sarah was led to the defendant's table in handcuffs. She'd lost weight in custody, but her eyes were clearer than he'd seen them in years. The haunted look was fading, replaced by something like peace. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Patricia Hernandez, had offered Sarah a deal, full cooperation in exchange for manslaughter charges instead of murder. 15 years instead of life. Sarah had refused. "I want to tell the truth," she'd said. "All of it, in open court." The gallery was packed, families of victims from 23 years of hunts, media from around the world, and in the back row, barely visible, Marie Santos and 3 other collection survivors who'd come to bear witness. Tom Harwick sat in a separate defendant's box, facing his own charges. His family's oil empire had crumbled within weeks, investigations revealing decades of murder for hire, witness elimination, and corporate assassination. His father had died in custody, suicide by hanging. His uncle was paralyzed from Marie's gunshot, facing life in prison. "Ms. Caldwell," Judge Patricia Williams began, "you've waived your right to a jury trial, choosing instead to have me determine your fate. Are you certain about this decision?" "Yes, Your Honor," Sarah's voice was steady. "I want one person to hear everything and judge me accordingly." Not 12 people swayed by emotion or media coverage. Over the next 3 days, Sarah testified. Every detail, every choice, every moment of her 2 years on Blackridge Mountain. She described the first night when Victor made her choose between her friends, how Kevin had begged her to choose him, and how she'd agreed because she thought they could escape together and get help. She explained how Victor had broken them down systematically, first through violence, making them watch the others die, then through isolation, keeping them separated for months, then through twisted education, teaching them to track, to hunt, to photograph death with artistic precision. He made us complicit gradually, Sarah said, her voice hollow. First, we just had to watch. Then, we had to document. Then, we had to help track. By the end of the first year, I was teaching new captives how to survive, because if they didn't learn, they died. "And you took photographs of victims?" Hernandez asked. "Yes, hundreds of them." Victor called it preserving the moment of transformation. He believed death was the ultimate evolution. "Did you ever try to escape?" "Constantly for the first 6 months. Then Victor showed me something." Sarah's voice cracked. "He had videos of Danny, recent ones, coming home from work, shopping, dating. He said if I ran, if I went to the police, Danny would disappear. So would my aunt in Oregon, my cousin in Florida. He had a network, people everywhere." Danny felt his chest tighten. He'd never known he was being watched, used as leverage. "But eventually you were allowed to leave the mountain?" the prosecutor continued. "After 14 months, Victor decided I'd been sufficiently reformed. I could go into town, but always with surveillance, always with the threat hanging over me." Sarah looked directly at Danny. "I wanted to tell you so badly. That day at the grocery store, I almost did. But Victor had shown me what happened to families of people who talked. The Hendricks family, Nicole's parents and little brother, died in a house fire 2 weeks after she disappeared. It was ruled accidental, but Victor showed me photos. He had people set that fire. The courtroom erupted. This was new information, evidence of a conspiracy even larger than anyone had imagined. When order was restored, Judge Williams asked the crucial question, "Ms. Caldwell, did you ever, of your own volition, without coercion, harm anyone?" Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Yes." The gallery gasped. "There was a man named Robert Fletcher. He tried to escape in March 2017. Victor sent me and Tom to track him. We found him near the river. Tom was going to kill him slowly. He enjoyed that. So She paused, gathering herself. "I pushed Robert into the rapids. He drowned. But it was faster than what Tom would have done." "You murdered him?" "I murdered him mercifully, and I photographed his body as required. But I also carved our GPS coordinates into a tree nearby and took a photo of that too. Every death I documented, I also documented its exact location, so families could someday recover their loved ones." The testimony continued. Sarah admitted to helping Victor identify potential victims from camping registrations. She admitted to teaching 5 new captives how to survive their initiation. She admitted to developing the photos that Victor treasured, organizing his grotesque gallery. But she also revealed the parallel documentation she'd created. USB drives hidden throughout the mountain containing evidence of every crime. Names of corrupt officials who'd helped cover up disappearances. Financial records of people who'd paid for murders. "Why didn't you turn this over immediately upon rescue?" Judge Williams asked. "Because I didn't trust anyone. The network was too big. I needed to wait to see who was really interested in justice versus who might be part of the cover-up." Sarah pulled a small key from her pocket. She'd been allowed to keep it. "This opens a safety deposit box in Lexington. Inside are drives containing everything. Every victim, every perpetrator, every accomplice. Even evidence of my own crimes." The federal agents immediately moved to retrieve the evidence. On the final day of testimony, Sarah was asked the question everyone wanted answered. "Do you believe you deserve punishment for your actions?" "Yes," Sarah said without hesitation. "I survived by becoming something terrible. I made choices that resulted in deaths. I collaborated with evil to gather evidence of evil. I deserve judgment." "Do you regret your actions?" Sarah considered this carefully. "I regret that I wasn't strong enough to find another way. I regret every life lost. But if I'd died that first night, if I hadn't adapted, Victor would still be hunting. The collection would still be growing. Families would never know what happened to their loved ones. So while I regret my actions, I can't honestly say I would do differently if faced with the same impossible circumstances." Judge Williams retired to consider her verdict. Danny was allowed 5 minutes with Sarah before she was returned to custody. "I'm proud of you," he said, holding her hands through the handcuffs. "For becoming a killer? For becoming a survivor who remembered her humanity enough to document the truth. For ensuring justice even at the cost of your freedom. Danny, I might get life in prison, and you'll deserve whatever you get, but you'll also deserve forgiveness. From me, at least." Sarah cried then, for the first time since the trial began. "I see them, Danny, every night. The ones I couldn't save. The ones I helped identify for Victor. Even Robert Fletcher, who I killed to save from worse." "That's good," Danny said gently. "Seeing them means you're still human, still Sarah. Not the thing Victor tried to make you." 3 hours later, Judge Williams returned with her verdict. "Sarah Caldwell, this court finds you guilty of voluntary manslaughter in the death of Robert Fletcher, guilty of conspiracy to commit kidnapping, guilty of accessory after the fact to multiple murders." Sarah stood straight, accepting each word. "However, this court also recognizes the extraordinary circumstances of your captivity, the documented psychological torture you endured, and your systematic efforts to preserve evidence despite incredible personal risk. Your actions, while criminal, were taken under duress and with the ultimate goal of exposing a massive criminal conspiracy." The judge paused, looking directly at Sarah. "The court sentences you to 25 years in federal prison with the possibility of parole after 8 years. Additionally, you will provide ongoing cooperation with federal investigations into the Blackridge Mountain murders and associated criminal networks." Sarah nodded, accepting her fate. As she was led away, she turned back to Danny one last time. "Take care of them," she called out. "The collection survivors. They need someone who understands. Use Victor's money, the land. Make something good from all this evil." Danny nodded. He'd already begun converting the Blackridge property into a legitimate wilderness therapy center for trauma survivors, staffed by collection members who'd chosen to stay and help others heal. Kevin would help run it. Even Tom, broken by his family's betrayal, had asked to participate after serving his own sentence. The media called it justice. The families called it closure. Danny called it a beginning. Sarah would serve her time, pay her debt, carry her guilt. But she would also know that her 2 years of horror had ended a 23-year reign of terror. Her documentation would lead to 37 additional arrests over the coming months. Her testimony would bring peace to hundreds of family members. As Danny drove away from the courthouse, he thought about the last thing Victor had said to him in a letter from prison just before dying from his cancer. "Your sister became what she needed to become to survive. As did you. As do we all. The only difference between heroes and villains, Mr. Caldwell, is what we choose to do with our darkness once we find the light." Sarah had found her light in truth, even though it meant prison. Danny had found his in purpose, transforming a killing ground into a place of healing. And somewhere on Blackridge Mountain, in a small memorial garden planted where the photo tree once stood, 127 small stones bore the names of Victor's victims, each stone placed by a collection survivor, each name a reminder that survival sometimes came at a terrible cost. But survival itself was not the crime. What mattered was what came after. The hunt was over. The sentences were passed. The guilty were punished. And on Blackridge Mountain, where so many had died, the work of healing had finally begun. 8 years later, Sarah Caldwell was granted parole. She emerged from prison to find a thriving trauma center on Blackridge Mountain, run by her brother and the survivors she'd helped save. She would spend the rest of her life there, teaching wilderness photography to abused survivors, helping them document their own journeys from victim to survivor. She never forgot the faces of those who died, but she learned finally to forgive the girl who had done whatever it took to ensure their stories would be told. In the end, that was all any of them could do: survive, witness, and remember.